Okay, I've just gotten to the end of having produced a lot of videos about AWS Panorama. Hopefully you've seen them already. There's two videos in addition to this one. There's one where I basically do a bit of an introduction, have a bit of fun with Tron, which is one of my favorite movies. And then also I do essentially a deep dive where I go and turn the device on for the first time. So I filmed myself turning the device on for the first time, provisioning it, going all the way through to actually deploying an actual application onto the device. So there's pretty much everything that I think you need to get to know the Panorama device and to how to get up and running. In this shorter video here, I want to talk about the differences between what we've got here, which is the device that we've just been looking at in those videos. This is the actual Panorama device. This is the one that's generally available. This is the one that you will get if you actually purchase one of these devices. Arriving in this box, AWS Panorama appliance. And I want to compare this to what I made videos about before. So about 9 months, I think it was, 9 months ago, I made a video about this. This is the AWS Panorama appliance developers kit, now really being referred to as the preview device, the preview Panorama device. And so obviously these things look kind of similar from the outside. The only real difference is that this one's got an orange sticker, and kind of actually that is relevant. But let's talk a little bit more about this. So this got announced at reInvent 2020 and was available shortly thereafter to, I guess, a select few people. I don't know that you could actually get this online. You could express an interest online, but AWS sent me this one so that I could make some videos about it. Now, the way this works is quite different to this. So let's talk about that first, because that's probably the most important part, maybe, is the way that you can deploy a project onto this box. And if you look back at that video, I'll link it up here, about when I first initially unboxed this and how to go with it. The way that you deploy an application on here, so a project, is to use Lambda. So you have a Lambda function, and then you can upload a model into AWS, the Panorama console page as well. You combine both of those things together and you pushed it out to the device. You also sent some configuration for camera feeds and you pushed it out to the device, all green grass. And that's pretty much how it worked. So quite similar to the DeepLens product in some ways, in that the code you're writing was a Lambda function. And so that's the way it worked. Now, I don't know that this actually ever made it out onto the market that you could actually buy. So most people don't have this anymore. And now we've got this generally available device. And in terms of the differences there and how you actually deploy the application out, as you'll have seen from the in-depth video that I've got, again, I'll put a link to that one up here. That's the current one. I've just made it recently. The code is developed locally, essentially. You can, and I do in the video, develop it on a development machine, an EC2 instance up in AWS, but it's just Python code. You wrap Python code up, you apply a model, you get all that bits and pieces together. You then combine it into a Docker container, and you put that Docker container onto here. And there's all detail in there about how you use a graph JSON structure to map together all the different inputs and outputs and all that kind of stuff. And you use the Panorama CLI or just the normal AWS API to push data ultimately to the unit. So the way that the applications are architected is quite different. And if you look in the documentation about the new one, there is a section in there that talks about how you upgrade or change the code and stuff from the old way to the new way. Essentially, you kind of have to sort of redo it again. The model's probably okay. A lot of your inference code is okay, but you just have to add in all the extra configuration and deploy it in the new way. So that's a significant difference there. And so it works a very different way. There are, however, other differences as well. I mentioned this orange sticker on the top of this one, the preview developer kit. And this says here, this device is for development purposes only. Root access is enabled by default. So you got root access to this. And when you went through the console to set this up, you actually were able to set the root. You're able to set an SSH access username and password that would get sent over to the device as part of provisioning. And you could get SSH access into the box and start messing around and seeing what's actually on the box. No such access over here. There is no SSH access into this. There's no password or anything like that to get into this. All you do here is you provision it with the USB memory stick, so the same, and then it hooks up to the console. Everything's done through the console. So that's quite different. And that's, I guess, I understood that that would happen with production units. So that's not really a surprise. But of course, this now works in quite a different way. Another difference, this one talked a lot about being able to automatically discover security cameras on your network by using the ONVIF standard. I will put a little note about what that is because I keep forgetting what it's called. But anyway, it's a standard that allows you to be able to scan for IP-based cameras on your network and then kind of make a negotiation with them. And this works. On this one, it works. With the cameras I have are compliant with that standard. When you put it on the network, it can find the cameras there. This one doesn't do that. And maybe that makes sense, but I mean, if you're going to be deploying cameras en masse and fleets of these things, then you probably don't want them auto-discovering, so that probably makes sense. But anyway, it doesn't happen on this box. And the last thing, I think this is the last difference that I've noticed. This one, when you set up the networking for this one, the preview box, through the console, you got to add configuration for Wi-Fi. With this one, you do not. You only have the 2 network ports on the back. Exactly the same on both of these, but I assume that the Wi-Fi hardware is still inside here, but you don't get to use Wi-Fi in the production box. So those are some differences between the two. When you go to the new console page for Panorama, if you've got one of these boxes, it just doesn't work. I think that the account that I set up to work with this still does work. It did the last time I looked. I haven't looked recently. So it could be that that particular account has its Panorama settings kind of backdated and stopped at being compatible with this. But you can't get this to work, this preview device, with the new Panorama interface. There is no over-the-air update that I know of that will allow it to work with the new Panorama interface. It's possible, maybe someone might have said that it's possible potentially to reflash it, but I think that's going to be way too hard because you can't do it yourself. I can't do it. I think it would involve being in the hands of someone at the Panorama team, and they're a long way away from where I am. So it's probably just going to stay as is, maybe just an expensive paperweight that I have lying around here somewhere. But those are some differences between the two, the preview box or the developer box as it was that came out about 9 months ago, and the new generally available Panorama that everybody can now get their hands on. So I just wanted to have this in this little separate video. Probably not very many people got this. So if you did, then maybe you found this useful. If you didn't, maybe you found it interesting anyway. This is really wrapping up everything that I want to talk about in relation to this new Panorama device. We're about to head into reInvent. Let's see what new toys and new services and new things come our way. If you've enjoyed this set of videos that I put together about Panorama, then I'd appreciate it if you just give us a like and maybe subscribe to the channel. I'm still growing this, so it's important for me that I get your support. And if you can share it around, share other people, show other people what's happening here on this channel in relation to AWS, machine learning, and computers in general. I've got lots of exciting things coming up soon. Lots of exciting things for reInvent, of course, which is just around the corner. So I'm really looking forward to that. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.